Nigeria Chambers from Big Opel Media. Jocelyn and Brady, thank you so much for your time today. Congratulations on your latest project, Abraham Boys, a Dracula story, in theaters July 11th. How you two doing?
Good, thank you.
Hey
How are
there. I'm
you?
doing well. How are you?
Good, good. Man, Jocelyn, let's start with you with Mina. What is this a compelling performance? And a lot of the story is really about the father-son relationship. And I would say, as a guy, I would kind of see that in a linear way. But like now that I'm like fully an adult, much more mature and understand just how important a mother's impact of the family is and needed, you have to consider what she goes through, what she means to her son, the impact of every decision that happens within the house. What would you say to that?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, Mina is kind of a stopgap between Abraham and the boys. I think she's realizing a little too late as she's getting sicker and sicker that his mentality and his obsession is dangerous for the boys as well. So I think she's starting to see the cracks in his worldview, and whereas she starts, reinforcing his ideas and telling the kids and explaining he's doing this to protect you. I think she's starting to get more clarity that she needs to protect the kids from him as well. So it's pretty tragic and heartbreaking. It's a very dysfunctional situation in the household. They're very isolated. And we know how much a parent imprints their worldview on their kids. And when there's no other context for them, it is almost like a cult like situation for the boys where they don't know what's real and what's not. Um,
Yeah.
and so Max is just getting old enough where Mina can start reaching out, I think, and start warning him. And we see that.
That's honestly a lot of where I connected with the film is the maturity of the boys over time, and I much like I told Titus when you were introduced into the film, we step into the world of film. We don't trust Abraham. He doesn't come off as a good guy at all. But by the end of the film, you hear this monologue that sort of humanizes him, and there may be a measure of empathy for him after that. But
Mm.
much like as kids, you don't typically understand what your parents is trying to teach you until it's too late at times, which we hope. Which is why I really thought that it was such a good story. And I want to kind of hear from you, Brady, in the sense of Maps, because this is a father that puts him through some very it puts him in harm. He harms them at times. A mother who, I mean, losing your mother is obviously everyone's biggest fear. And then also you still are the big brother to a little brother, Rudy, who's this almost a fly on the wall. He's trying to consume it all and figure out his way, and he's challenging his brother, which we
Right.
already know that could be a story in its own. Like, talk to me through all of those emotions, and where do we kind of land and ride this with Max?
Right. So, we see Max. He's kind of this soldier, following everything that Abraham tells him to do. Because it's the only way of life that Max knows. I mean, he's been isolated for literally his entire life. So, the one person who tells him what to do, that's who he follows. So, Max following his father and then seeing Abraham's personality kind of become deranged and slipping through who he regularly is, Max starts to question his father. So we have this pivotal moment of maybe everything my father has been teaching me throughout my entire life isn't true. So he has that whole element of his character. You have Rudy, who now, through halfway through the movie, Max now turns and goes, I'm kind of the parent of Rudy now. I need to protect his innocence and get us
Mm,
away from danger. So now Max has to take along this parental role while also dealing with the loss of his mother.
mm,
So at a young age, this is a lot. This is a lot to go through for anybody, but especially at this young age of Max. So we're kind of in this story with Max, feeling all of these different emotions, seeing what he decides to do, and ultimately at the end of the movie, he kind of does do a play on words of what Abraham teaches him to do, which is, stay away from evil, take away the evil, which he does. So there's just so much running through Max's mind, and I think seeing the development of who he wants to be now as his own person rather than what his father wanted him to become.
yeah.
I think it's a really cool transition throughout the whole movie.
Well said. Thank you so much for that. Jocelyn,
Oh,
coming
thank
back to
you.
you because again, with your compelling performance here, there's moments where not only are we physically seeing a transformation with your character, but like we also are immersed into sort of a mental state as well too. For you as the actor, what sort of imagery, what thoughts are you having to really portray what you're saying, so that it almost feels organic? Like there's definitely times where I'm like, I'm pretty sure she has this vivid picture of Dracula in her head right now, or the devil of some sorts, and that's why these reactions are coming out the way they are. So, like, how do you kind of work through that as an actor to really give that sort of authenticity to her reactions through the film?
Oh, thank you
Mm.
so much. That's so nice. Yeah, I mean, as an actor, you are trying to see it in your head. You know, Mina does believe that she's seeing these things. At the same time, she's in this fog of drug use. You know, I think Abraham has been giving her laudanum to sedate her. I think she's has this slippery slope of mental decline throughout, and that's been going on for 20 years since this attack from Dracula. So there is an element of PTSD and trauma that she's dealing
Mm,
with. There's this chronic infection of the blood that she's dealing with. So Natasha and I talked about kind of what those blood diseases would do to a person. So she's kind
Mm.
of weak and anemic. She's kind of slipping from life into death. So she's in this like very like transitory liminal space. Um, and so, yeah, you think about what that does to your body, and then you think about how you're kind of trying to see through a fog. And I think as she's getting closer to death, she's coming to some clarity. As she's getting physically weaker, her mind is getting a little stronger, that she feels that her last act has to be to reach out and warn her kids, which I thought
mm.
was tragic and beautiful.
Yeah, truly poetic in a way, I may also say.
Thank
Listen,
you.
for my time left, because I can't help but to think what's next. So I want to ask you, Brady, if you a little fantasy book in here, as I like to call it. Max and Rudy have basically a lot to live for at this rate. I would say Mother's Legacy is definitely one thing, but I also can say like sort of that iconic shoes to fill of the father. And even if it means going back overseas where we know there's potentially a home near too, and we also know that more people join along. When you think about this as an actor or even as just a fan, what is next for the adventures of Max and Rudy?
Right. So what I think is super interesting throughout the entire film with Max and his father, at the end, with what Max does, you kind of start to question if Max is slowly becoming his father without intentionally meaning to. Right. So you got that whole world you can explore. Directly from Natasha, um, we're getting into some historically. We're getting into World War One. And so there was kind of this talk of where do Max and Rudy go? Is it possibly now a vampire war movie? Is that what's next? So I mean, we've had all these crazy conversations of where this story goes, but really I'm interested in seeing what the audience comes up with, what the fan theories are. So I'm very excited for what people are going to say.
That's, you know what's odd? Joe said he was working on a project later this year, and it sort of highlighted some of the things you just said. I wonder if just some coincidental things happening right now. But hey, if
Hmm.
it puts y'all back to work, I'm all for it. But nonetheless, I truly look forward to future projects of you all's and for the world to finally check out Abraham Boy's A Dracula Story. After I heard about this at Overlook Film Festival, I knew I needed to see it. And now that I did, everybody was absolutely right, including Stephen King. And now the world can see it July 11th. Thank y'all both so much for your time today and congratulations on this project.
Thank you
Thank
very much.
you. That was great. Thanks
Absolutely.
so much.
Thank
Yep.
you.